Ethan Caldwell had always believed that life was a game of chance. Born into hardship, he had spent years clawing his way through the shadows of a city that never slept, where the rich feasted and the poor fought for scraps. He had no fortune, no family, and no safety net, just a relentless will to survive. The rain poured down in sheets as he trudged through the narrow alleyway behind Holloway Street, his jacket soaked, his stomach aching from hunger. He had spent the last of his money on a stale loaf of bread the night before, and now he was back where he started, desperate, hungry, and hopeless. But fate, it seemed, had other plans. A scream cut through the night, sharp and desperate. Ethan's head snapped toward the sound. Just beyond the alley, where the dim glow of a street lamp barely reached, he saw a man struggling with a woman. The attacker's face was hidden beneath the brim of his hat, but his intentions were clear. Ethan didn't hesitate. Years of hardship had hardened him, made him quick and strong despite his lean frame. He lunged, grabbing the attacker by the collar and yanking him backward. A brief struggle ensued, but Ethan had the advantage of surprise. The man stumbled, caught off guard, and bolted into the darkness. The woman gasped for breath, clutching her torn sleeve, her wide eyes locking onto Ethan's. You saved me. It was nothing," he said, shaking the rain from his hair. "Are you all right?" She nodded shakily. "Yes, thanks to you." It was then that Ethan noticed the emblem on her bracelet, a golden insignia of the Lancaster family, one of the wealthiest families in the city. His pulse quickened. If she was who he thought she was, then he had just saved someone incredibly important. "My name is Clara Lancaster," she said, catching his gaze. "I owe you my life." The next morning, Ethan awoke to the sound of knocking on the rusted door of the abandoned building he called home. He opened it cautiously, only to find two well-dressed men standing before him. Behind them, a sleek black car idled on the street. "Mr. Caldwell?" one of them asked. Ethan stiffened. No one ever came looking for him. "Who's asking?" "You helped Miss Lancaster last night," the man continued. "Her father, Mr. William Lancaster, wishes to meet you." Ethan hesitated. The Lancasters were powerful, untouchable. He had never once in his life imagined crossing paths with them, but something told him that this wasn't an offer he could refuse. The Lancaster estate was larger than any building Ethan had ever stepped foot in. Marble floors, towering chandeliers, and walls lined with paintings that probably cost more than he would ever earn in his lifetime. He felt out of place, but he kept his chin high as he was led into Mr. Lancaster's study. William Lancaster was a man in his 60s, with a sharp gaze and an air of command. He studied Ethan for a long moment before speaking. "My daughter tells me you saved her. I did what anyone would do," Ethan replied, uneasy under the man's scrutiny. "Not everyone would risk their life for a stranger," Lancaster countered. He leaned back in his chair. "I want to repay you. What do you want?" Ethan hesitated. He wanted many things: a home, stability, a life beyond the gutters of the city. But asking for help felt foreign, almost shameful. "I don't need a reward," he said finally. Lancaster raised an eyebrow. "Everyone needs something, Mr. Caldwell. Think about it." Ethan left the estate with a heavy mind. Something about the whole situation felt off. Claire had been attacked in a wealthy district, somewhere crime was rare. And the attacker, there had been something strange about him, something calculated. He couldn't shake the feeling that he had stumbled into something much bigger than he realized. Days passed, and Ethan tried to push the encounter from his mind, but fate was relentless. He found a letter slipped beneath his door, bearing an unfamiliar seal. Inside was a simple message: "They are watching you. Do not trust them." His blood ran cold. Who was watching? The Lancasters? The attacker? And why warn him? As Ethan tried to make sense of the letter, another knock echoed through his door. This time it was Claire. She was out of breath, her eyes filled with panic. "Ethan, I need your help." "What's wrong?" "My father." She hesitated, lowering her voice. "I think he's hiding something. The man who attacked me. He wasn't just some criminal. He knew me. And now, I think someone in my family is involved." Ethan's instinct screamed at him to walk away. This was a fight far beyond his world. But looking into Claire's desperate eyes, he knew he couldn't. "All right," he said. "Tell me everything." What followed was a game of deception and discovery. Ethan and Claire worked in the shadows, piecing together a puzzle that led them deeper into the secrets of the Lancaster family. They uncovered hidden records, secret meetings, and whispers of a deal gone wrong. Ethan's worst fears were confirmed when he found a file in Mr. Lancaster's study, his own name printed on the cover. He had been watched for years. Before he could make sense of it, the door slammed open. Mr. Lancaster stood there, his expression unreadable. "You should have walked away, Mr. Caldwell." Two guards stepped into the room, their hands on their weapons. Ethan glanced at Claire, his mind racing. He had spent his life surviving the streets. He wasn't about to let it end here. "Run," he whispered to Claire. She didn't hesitate. The next moments were chaos. Ethan fought off the guards, his years of street survival giving him the edge he needed. He and Claire fled through the estate, dodging security, until they burst into the cold night air. Breathing heavily, Claire turned to him. "What now?" Ethan clenched his fists. He was done running. If Lancaster had been watching him for years, there was a reason, and he intended to find out what it was. It's time to end this. With Claire by his side, he was ready to uncover the truth, no matter the cost.